China's economy is doing better than expected. Figures out Tuesday showed growth hitting 5.3% in the first quarter. That was comfortably ahead of analyst forecasts.
China's economy grew at 5.3% in the first quarter of the year. That's faster than the 5.2% growth China saw in the last quarter of 2023 and much faster than forecast.
2024 GDP coming in at 5.3% year-on-year, where the Reuters poll was expecting a slowdown. Mind you, they were expecting this to be the slowest quarter.
So, despite multiple predictions of a China economic slowdown, China's economy has grown much faster than expected. And it's surprising to many people around the world, but not to me. And I'm sure you guys know why, because I've been talking about this multiple times. And I'll tell you the reasons why in this video, which will definitely shock you. First, we need to understand that from the Fed and the interest rates in the United States, which is affecting the US dollar, to the currency crashes and inflations in countries like the UK, Germany, and Japan, to Iran attack on Israel and Israel's retaliation, and of course to multiple issues in the European Union and all around the world. Many analysts keep focusing on China's economy, saying that China's economy will not survive, that China's economy is going to collapse anytime soon, and they even say that China's economy will not be able to bounce back due to many factories leaving China. But they forget to talk about economies like the US economy, which is going through a whole lot right now. And of course, that's one of the reasons why Yellen recently visited China, where she talked about China slowing down, of course, China's overcapacity, and requesting China to slow down on their production level, of course. And I think that should definitely count as the trouble that the US is going through. Now, China seems to be the most resilient economy right now, as I can say, because of course it seems like China is currently the only big economy in the world that isn't on edge. And of course, as we all know, China is currently not in any war with any country around the world. And you will see how this aspect is definitely helping the economy of China. And actually, I believe that's one of the reasons why China's GDP has been very strong and resilient. And of course, that has been impacting the growth of the Chinese economy recently, unlike most other countries around the world who are currently going through a whole lot of turmoil. So guys, here's the backstory. China's GDP recently rose by 5.3% for the first quarter of this year, 2024, beating all analyst forecasts of about 4.8%, which were previously anticipated. And if you have been following my previous videos, you would understand that I actually spoke about this before. And I said, from my own point of view, living here in China and doing all the proper research, I think China's economy is definitely resilient. Now, the truth is that China's economy has had its issues since the pandemic. And just like every other economy in the world, China's economy has also been going through some difficult times, but it's normal for every economy. And of course, China's real estate also had some slowdown in recent years. But here in China, there's still so much essential construction going on in many cities across China. And I've seen most of these buildings while traveling around China in many different cities. But I believe that China realized that the real estate peak had been achieved. Of course, here in China, reason why more resources were then diverted to more innovative and tech sectors here in China, of course, to diversify their portfolio. So I believe that when most analysts are looking at China's economy being pegged to its real estate, they need to diversify their point of view and of course look at other aspects of China's economy. Now, the truth is that China's economy is very strange and it's very difficult and complex when trying to understand it, because there's of course ups and downs, but then when we look at the long-term goal, we can realize that China's economy has been on an upward trajectory. And of course, when we look at all the statistics and the moves that China is making globally, you can clearly see that China is making the right moves at the right times and creating the right partners. Now, let me tell you a couple of reasons why I believe China's economy has been resilient so far and of course experienced this 5.3% growth rate during this first quarter of 2024. Firstly, I believe China doesn't seem to be interested in wars or interfering in other countries' politics and issues. in most cases recently. If we look very well, China is usually a very neutral partner in most conflicts which happens around the world. And if you even take a look at the UN Security Council, China in most situations remains neutral. They do not pick sides. And when it comes to wars and attacks of other countries, China just doesn't want to get into wars, because I believe a country trying to build its infrastructure and grow its country wouldn't want to destroy all of that work. And this is the reason why China is able to trade with the US, with Russia, with the UK, with African countries, with India, Mexico, and every country around the world when you look at it critically. And I believe that's because it's all about business for China and mutual growth and cooperation. So now I have to ask the question, why won't the economy of China grow at this rate when they do business with every country in the world? Now, again, despite many people believing that China's production has fallen over the past years and many companies are leaving China, the actual reality is that China has shifted from cheap labor, which used to be the case in the past, and now they are more focused on advanced and innovative type of labor for their economy. Now we need to understand that labor is no longer cheap in China as it used to be in the past. Now you can get cheap labor in Vietnam, in Thailand, Mexico, and other countries, but no longer in China, because China has switched from a low labor country to a more advanced and innovative tech hub. And it can clearly be seen in China's STEM education system, which aims to push forward a workforce which is mainly geared towards innovation and technology. And of course, as we all know, technology will definitely dominate from now right on to the future, as we can all see through AI and other tech developments, and China is definitely leading in that aspect. Now, China is the world's largest exporter in many sectors, from labor to tech and everyday products that we all use in our homes. And I believe that many countries definitely benefit from China's growth and China's products. Despite multiple reports on a slowing production rate here in China, no country is yet to come close to China's export rate. Reason why a consistent export sector to many countries around the world has contributed hugely to China's economic resilience. And if you check statistics, China is still one of the biggest trading partners with the USA. China is still one of the biggest trading partners with Africa, and of course all across Europe. So we need to understand that even though China's economic growth over the past years were closely linked to its real estate sector, which definitely had some issues, like Evergrande, which had multiple problems recently, China's strategies in recent years has been to decouple its economy from the real estate sector. And achieving such milestone definitely comes with its downsides, which can of course be temporary depending on the strategies that the Chinese government will use. And when we look at it closely, we can clearly see that China is trying to replace the reliance on the real estate sector to innovative and tech sector, of course including clean energy, because like I mentioned before, clean energy is definitely the future, and most of the world is in need of clean energy, and China is mass producing that. And that's one of the points that Yellen mentioned when she came to China for her recent visit. Now, Reuters even mentioned that China's new home prices fell at their fastest pace in more than 8 years last month, alongside their property investments, which is definitely expected in the strategies that I believe China is taking to be able to decouple from reliance on their real estate sector. Now, that's clearly why the EU and the US have been worried about China's geometric clean energy growth. Because when we look at most of the leaders of the EU and the US, they have been complaining about China's increased overcapacity of clean energy, solar, EVs, and other sectors linked to the clean energy. And that's a huge problem for the workforce in the West. Now, millennials, as we all know, China's growth over the past years has been a driving force for many smaller economies all around the world. And that is still maintained because statistics show that as China's economy grows over the years, many economies around the world seem pegged to grow alongside China's economy. And of course, that's a positive win for the whole world. And I think this should also be mentioned more often when most analysts are talking about China's economic collapse. Now, I've asked this question before and I'll ask again. When will we see China's economy collapse? Will China's economy even collapse? What will be the effect on other smaller economies if the economy of China collapses? When we look at all the moves that China is making right now, does it mean these moves are all wrong moves? China isn't fighting wars. China isn't going to fight with any country. China hasn't fought with any country for a long time. From all observations, China has been mainly focused on innovation and global cooperation, including trade. So I believe all these aspects are definitely helping the economy of China grow. So personally, I do not think we will see a collapse of the Chinese economy anytime soon. What I hope for on my own part is that every country can work together for global growth. If China can achieve this milestone without fighting wars, I believe more countries around the world can definitely achieve this milestone too without fighting wars. So hopefully our governments can come together to make it better, and of course we the citizens can benefit from that. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Like this video, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. Remember, this is Willen. See you next time.